What is up, everybody? And we are from the sidelines here every single Sunday at 8 p.m. And it's football season officially as week 0 took place yesterday in college football. But we're here to talk the NFL. And the last week of the preseason has happened. And there's a lot to talk about. I mean, we got cut down day happening on Tuesday. We got players who are making a name for themselves. We have some trades to talk about. You know, fantasy football, everyone's trying to figure out what to do as, you know, if you're one of the people who like to, you know, have your draft later on in the preseason and, you know, at the end of the preseason, right before the regular season, just in case any injuries happen, this is your time to draft. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about some prospects to look at as well. But a lot of swirling in the NFL. We're only ramping up. We're getting into gears. Week 1 is only 2 weeks away. We're super excited to talk some NFL, but I'm here with Cody, Jackson, and Josh. The fellas are all here today. Guys, how you doing? How we doing today? How we feeling?
Feeling good.
Pretty solid.
Good.
Great, yeah. Good to see some football on.
True. Got done with another draft, like my third or fourth one just a few hours ago, so that's always fantastic.
Oh, how was that?
Nice.
What kind of league was it?
10-man PPR. Single quarterback, 3 receivers, 2 running backs.
Who's your first pick? Who
was my first pick? I think it was Bijan Robinson.
So you were probably top 3,
Solid.
I assume?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You know, it's all right.
Actually, no way. I'm sure. I think it was our draft we did last week. I'm excited for our team, my team that I drafted. Obviously, a lot of moving parts, right? Bijan Robinson, you know, B Robinson, B Rob, right? So we got a B Rob on the move this past week, as if it's officially been announced by the Commanders 3 hours ago on their Twitter page that Brian Robinson Jr. has been traded to the San Francisco 49ers in exchange for a 6th-round pick. According to sources, he had a couple teams that were he actually had a pretty decent market. Where I think the Dolphins were at one point the front runners to land him and it was the 49ers as well. And I think it was one more team. I can't remember off the top of my head. But B-Rob to the 49ers, Cody, how do you like that fit?
I like it. I think he's still a good player. I think he just wore out his time in Washington. It was kind of just time to get a change of scenery there. But I think he's still a good player. They needed some depth behind McCaffrey because you just don't know with McCaffrey throughout the year how healthy he's going to be. So I think that's good. And if you just look at their skill position players in San Francisco, they got a lot of injuries, whether it's Ayuk, Pearsall, Jennings has been banged up this offseason. So
Pearsall's healthy right now. Pearsall's healthy. Don't
for now. He was injured for a minute though.
That was outside football circumstances.
True.
In the football world.
True. But no, I mean he's been dealing with stuff in training camp too. But I just feel like it's thin, and so you need any kind of help you can get. And then behind McCaffrey, you have to have like a proven back. And you know Shanahan likes to use multiple running backs. He's used Jordan Mason. Garindo's banged up, so maybe he'll get step in there for Garindo a little bit. But I think it's a decent fit, good fit for Robinson, and then I think good fit for the 49ers. You need some depth behind McCaffrey there.
I think it's a great get for the 49ers, like to put that kind of depth and the kind of running that he does behind that offensive line. It's a fantastic option behind McCaffrey. I feel bad just for him, you know, because his usage goes down a lot now. I know that Shanahan likes using multiple running backs, but you know, he was the first down running back for that team. And now he's going to a team that, you know, wants to get the ball in McCaffrey's hands in space as much as they can, especially with those weapons hurt. You know, so I think his best shot is the inevitable McCaffrey injury, which is not unlikely. So as of right now, not a great situation for him as far as usage goes, because as a running back, you only have so many years to get that high usage before, you know, teams start passing on you. So hopefully, you know, he gets his chance and then maybe they only hold on to him for like a year.
Yeah. What do you think, Josh?
I actually picked him up as a cup in fantasy because the inevitable, like I said before, Christian McCaffrey is a do-it-all bell cow. But with that being said, often comes with bumps and bruises and increased chance of injury. And You know, B-Rod can carry the load pretty well overall. Just not as great as everyone top tier running backs can do, but in a pinch, you need to throw him in mid game or for a few games. You can feel comfortable doing that from just a natural, just NFL perspective or a fantasy football perspective. So I decided to get a cuff because other guys are injured and chance of him getting some playing time is pretty up there.
So now that B-Rob is going to be in San Francisco, and obviously they did trade Jordan Mason, their backup, to the Vikings earlier this offseason as well. Do you think B-Rob takes touchdown opportunities from Christian McCaffrey? Like, do you think that it just lessens, CMC's fantasy value? Because, I mean, that's kind of was what B-Rob was his biggest asset, was his kind of how he had 8 touchdowns last year. So, like, he was a pretty solid goal line back for them. What do you think, Cody?
I mean, probably not initially. We saw last year, I think McCaffrey came back, and in the second game he's back. Shanahan's giving him 30-plus carries. So Shanahan's shown that he's going to ride McCaffrey as long as he can, basically. So maybe not initially, but as the season goes on, maybe he gets a little bit more touches. So I think it'd be a guy you maybe throw on your bench or look for a waiver wire pickup later in the season, just because he's still got to learn the offense. He's still got to, get in with the team there. So it's going to be a little bit, and they play a game in a week and a half, or 2 weeks actually. So I think it's going to be some time. I wouldn't start him at all. Like, I wouldn't have him as your RB3 or a flex at all. Like, that would not be a move to do. But if you want to throw him on your bench or keep an eye on a waiver wire, I think that's a good spot there, just because eventually McCaffrey's going to get some load on those tires again this year, and you're going to see B-Rob get some carries, but maybe not in the beginning, but maybe towards the middle, towards the end of the season.
Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think with this pickup, I think Shanahan might have the approach of maybe a little less bell cow usage of them. So maybe instead of McCaffrey getting the 85, 90% carry load, that maybe might drop to like 80, 75% and let B-Rob kind of takes the brunt of that too, so to kind of get more out of McCaffrey, fresh legs and all, as the season gets deeper on. So you have plenty of capable talent in the backfield. Yeah, use it for sure. So you don't want to sacrifice talent, but you got to try to manage those numbers to what you see best fit.
I want to ask you a different question, Jackson, and this question will be for the room as well. And then if you guys are watching, let us know in the comment section as well. This answer that I'm going to ask for this question: over under 6.5 touchdowns for Christian McCaffrey. Jackson, what do you think?
You have to go over. I mean, you can't bet with injury in mind. I feel like he's too high usage to not get 7 touchdowns on the season. We're not that far removed from the 14 game streak that he had with a touchdown, with multiple of those games having multiple touchdowns. So he scores when he's healthy, when he's playing. So I'd say as long as he's healthy, he can easily double that. But it's always his health. If I had to bet on it, I'd definitely go over.
Easily is a strong word, but I like the confidence.
He's never really had a bruiser on his team while he's been a running back, other than maybe like he might have caught the tail end of the Tolbert era in Carolina. So there's never been someone to take goal line carries from him. I don't really think that there were many like true bruiser running backs in San Francisco or Carolina while he was there. So maybe if, B-Rob is a physical between the tackles guy, he can be somewhat of their goal line back, although it's not his like primary usage anyway. I can see that, but Shanahan is kind of the guy that always wants to do right by his players. And if a player gets you down the field, like if McCaffrey has several plays that get them down to the 1 yard line, he's not going to take McCaffrey out of the game. Like he's going to let him get the touchdown that he earned. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. There are plenty of other offenses, Eagles, that do not give that same love to the players that get them all the way down the field. I mean, Hurts could have 0 passing yards in a drive, and if they're on the 1 yard line, he's going to get a rushing touchdown.
Yeah, the old Boo Miles effect, if you are familiar with that reference.
Love that movie.
Yeah.
Or, obviously the Jalen Hurts effect now, I guess, for the the newer kids on the block, it's just like the man never smiles, but he smiles whenever his players get tripped up on the 1 yard line. That's the biggest grin you'll see from Jalen Hurts' face. So, Cody, Josh, let me ask you, over under 6.5 touchdowns.
I'd go over 2. Maybe not easily, not as confident as Jackson is, but I would go over 2.
Okay. Josh?
I back Jackson on the same. Easily over, for sure.
Damn, easily. Okay.
Time again, he's been healthy. He's putting up numbers. So whether it's rushing touchdowns or receiving touchdowns, he's man.
I didn't specify the caveat, so that is true. So he could definitely have a mixture of both. I think I'll be the devil's advocate and I'll go under, and just to be a hater. But yeah, I don't know. I just think that it'll be interesting to see what does happen in San Francisco. Obviously, they need some sage. They need to do something. And Santa Clara, like, there's a nasty bug. They need some, a bug, whatever. Get the injury bug out of here, exterminate the place, because it's been following them for years. Like, I don't know if it's something that Kyle Shanahan does in training or what areas the players they specifically get, but it just consistently keeps happening every year, and it's an epidemic with the San Francisco 49ers. So let's move on. Let's talk about another trade who also was a former commander at one point, but Mr. Sam Howell's on the move again. I think at this point, you just get used to living in a hotel at this point. He is traded to the Philadelphia Eagles. Sam Howell and a 6th-round pick in 2026 is traded to the Eagles for a 2026 5th-round pick and a 2027 7th-round pick. This is interesting, right? So it looks like that the Vikings are going to go with their younger rookie quarterback as their backup and then bring in Carson Wentz. Obviously, JJ is younger than their rookie backup. He's 22. I think their backup is like 24. And then Carson Wentz, who's another Commander great. I say that, with irony. But Josh, I'll let you start off this. How do you feel about this trade? What getting rid of Sam Howell? Is it confusing? What do you feel?
100% confused. I don't get Sly. I do understand. I'm just surprised by it. So it's like you traded for him during the draft for Howell. Dude's brand new under the system. Only just a few months into it, sure, he wasn't performing the absolute greatest during the offseason, whether it's through training camp or the preseason game itself. But enough to warn a guy who's trying to learn the playbook and all that. Come from a whole different system, and then just straight up like, no, this ain't working now. So you go into the Eagles, and little we'll get former 1st-round pick Carson Wentz to fill the other QB vacant spot on the team. See you later, dude. I figured I should have gave the dude a little more time, but shoot to each their own. Yeah, so it's a little bit surprising. Did definitely not see that coming. Waking up, let alone adding Carson Wentz to the mix too. I guess with Kevin O'Connell got the QB whisperer himself. So if they really think, hey, we'll have to maximize this Carson Wentz big body talent, then trust the system, I guess. So until we see how that goes, will we get some playing time? Probably not really, but it depends. God forbid, knock on wood, that they somehow both go down. They feel comfortable that they can hold the reins for a little bit, so that your team doesn't take a full-on nosedive during that time.
Jackson, how do you feel about former Tar Heel?
Obviously, yeah, a little bit partial to Sam, but yeah, it's odd to see him get shipped around so much because you never hear any gripes about, any big red flags in his play or his locker room presence. He's a pretty low story guy. There's not a lot of talk about him, but he just, this is his like 3rd team in a year. He's just getting pushed around. So yeah, I thought it was an odd move, especially for the capital that they got in return. I guess we'll just have to see. He's a backup wherever he goes at this point. So I just hope he gets his opportunity.
Cody?
Yeah, I got to agree with both Josh and Jackson. With Josh, yeah, it was kind of just a confusing move. He's been there in your system now for a little bit. and you signed Wentz, he's been on the streets, he's been a free agent all offseason. So it doesn't really make sense to me. And yeah, you didn't really get much of a return. You gave up a 6th and a player to get a 5th and a 7th back. That's not really, it's almost kind of like a wash at that point. Actually, you might have lost if Howell ends up being their backup quarterback. But even on the Eagles side, I thought Tanner McKee kind of solidified himself as the backup quarterback there. So I don't really know exactly what they're trying to do with Sam Howell. But yeah, just kind of a weird move all around. You didn't really get back much. And so I guess you're going with the rookie as a backup. And then obviously JJ McCarthy's your starting quarterback. I think Brosmer went to Minnesota, though. So maybe they know a little bit more about him since he's a home state kid kind of thing. But yeah, just kind of a puzzling move. And Howell, I thought he was decent coming out of North Carolina. He hasn't gotten exactly a huge shot. He got a little bit in Washington, but it's definitely a guy who seems to be a decent locker room guy. Just ends up finding himself on different teams all the time.
He had a great season in Washington. Obviously he had his issues. He threw plenty of picks, but there were several weeks where he was leading the NFL in passing yards. You know, he wasn't some scrub. He wasn't like a Nathan Peterman when he got thrown out there. Like, you know, he was dealing, you know, he's throwing some picks, but you know, as a Jameis Winston fan, those happen, you know.
True.
So yeah, it was puzzling to see that they moved on from him for for their current quarterback. Obviously that worked out very well for them. So you can't hate the move now, but since then I feel like he's just kind of gotten pushed around, and people forget that he played very well the season that he had the reins.
Yeah. So we can kind of clear up a little bit. So for the Vikings pretty much gets their 5th round pick back. So they traded a 5th round pick for Sam Howell during the draft from Seattle. So he's been, since the draft, he's been traded twice. And so then it's pretty much a pick swap. So kind of like from obviously 2076 versus 2027 pick swap. So that is interesting. I would say the positive is like he's getting traded for and people are asking for him, right? Versus the fact of like he would just been cut, right? And he would, obviously he would have been able to get a chance to choose his next team. So there is still a demand for him if you want to look at the positives. And I think in Philadelphia, they kind of look at themselves as possibly being a quarterback factory and developing talent. So I think obviously the reason why it didn't kind of work out in Seattle is I think I'm trying to think. Sam Howell was traded for the same year that he got
Sam Darnold.
Not Darnold. They had him the year before, but I don't think he had him on. Mike McDonald was there, so it wasn't like that. And he also still ran with Geno Smith. And then they just kind of went a whole new quarterback room with Sam Darnold, Jalen Milroe, and then also Drew Lock. So he kind of was like the 4th man out there. So I understand why they traded him at the draft. Then obviously Minnesota felt like a reasonable slot, but I guess their rookie quarterback they really love. So it kind of just like, okay, not fit there, and then they needed a veteran in the room, so they went with Carson Wentz, who's been, I think, the last 2 years with Kansas City, and then now he goes to Philadelphia, where I think because I know that the Eagles wanted another quarterback. They wanted to draft Shedeur, but the Browns traded up in front of them to draft Shedeur, and then they wound up drafting Kyle McCord, who I think got waived today. So I think instead of McKee, I think it's kind of more of that quarterback 3, possibly developmental quarterback that Sam Howell is going to be replacing there. So obviously the hot potato of Sam Howell continues, but who knows? Maybe this could be a same effect to what happened with like Jalen Hurts. Like, you got a guy you think you're good with, and then, maybe something might happen, and then who knows? Who knows what happens? The NFL's crazy world, and obviously the Philadelphia Eagles always seem to be a couple steps ahead in planning for contingency plans, and they're already got guys in they think are going to replace, Lane Johnson and all those guys, hopefully to develop, who are also international guys who might need a couple years to learn the game of football. But I don't know. I don't, he's back in the NFC East. Obviously, I don't know. He can give some, report to like when he played to maybe help with game plans, but I don't know. It is sad that he gets bouncing around. I want to see him get a fair shake. Like, especially, I would love to see him if he was able to chance to like sign with the Saints, because the Saints are going to be a dumpster fire here. So, like, why not get a couple fringe starts, a couple game checks? That'd have been fun to see.
Yeah, they need help.
A lot of help. Let's talk about a team let's talk about a fantasy guy who's kind of been soaring up the board to possibly give you guys some help for your fantasy teams, and that is Mr. Bill Krosky-Merritt, who is kind of, ever since the B-Rob trade has happened, he's kind of he's been the talk of the town. If you follow any type of fantasy content, or you like one video on TikTok and next thing you know, it's all over your feed this time of year, Bill Krosky-Merritt has been a name that you've heard probably 10 times by now. Obviously, me as a Commanders fan, I knew about him ever since we drafted him in the 7th round. I'm excited. I'll start off like I'm excited to see what happens. I don't know if you're looking at week 1 production right away, what that would look like, because I think the pecking order is a little interesting for him right now at the moment. But I think by the end of the year, I think he'll wind up getting his way up there. But Jackson, how do you feel about the Bill hype? Are you on the hype train for Bill Krosky-Merritt?
So I was actually just looking for a different running back. I was trying to see if B-Rob was available in a 14-man league, which of course he was not. And Bill Krosky-Merritt happened to be available, and I assumed he was already gone in that league. So I went ahead and picked him up. Risky move there just because I had to drop a running back as well. Only running back on my bench I was comfortable dropping is Trey Benson. Benson could easily, with one twisted ankle, be a very productive running back, given how much they feed James Conner. But yeah, he's a really high upside guy, Bill Krosky-Merritt. So you got to just look at the fact that Eckler is aging. People talk about just the sheer comedy that is watching him try to run straight line speed. And the rest of their running back room is, like you said, the pecking order is interesting. It's kind of undetermined right now. So I feel like when this happens, like when situations like this in the NFL happen, the rookie comes out on top. It's just never right away. If you start in week 1, that bold play. If he plays well, I would stash and wait on it. I wouldn't, if you have a running back on your bench that you're not super confident in, I'd consider going and getting him if he's still available. Just because he's a late season play when you got guys on bye weeks, or he eventually gets his chance.
Cody, what do you think? Are you on the Bill train?
I'm kind of next to it right now. I'm waiting and seeing him, but like Jackson was saying, like his hype is up there. Without B-Rob there, he's gonna get touches. And they use both Eckler and B-Rob a ton last year, so they're gonna go with 2 guys. McNichols is more of like your out of the backfield guy, more the receiving threat. He's not really a guy that's gonna run between the tackles very often. So I think he will get some play, but it's probably a guy you keep on your bench. See how the first couple weeks go. Maybe he does get a couple of carries. Eckler is 30 now, so we'll see where the durability is for him there. And he's got a lot of tread on the tires from his Charger days to now. So I think he's a good maybe late round pick. Put on your bench and kind of wait and see. Flex at the very most, I think, early on. But he could end up being a guy that helps win you a fantasy league if you can get him in later. If you can get him in later in the season and he's starting or getting more carries for Washington, that really could win you a league at the end of the year.
Josh.
Yeah.
Hopping aboard?
Give or take. I mean, with the whole, because they're going to have, running back by committee approach to it. So everyone's value for fantasy is going to be rather slim nonetheless. But if Eckler keeps on having issues with ball security and whatnot, everyone else, their stock rises a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. Like y'all brought up, he's not getting any younger. He's on the wrong side of 30. So the age starts to creep up a little more and starts to show his play style and the ball security with Eckler. Yeah, like get ready to feast, fellas, because your time is up. Let's go. Your time. Suit up, lace up, and hopefully, for those who have him on the team for fantasy, ends up coming very fruitful for them.
And there's also a good chance that this Bill train could also derail, because there is another running back in this backfield that has impressed the coaching staff quite a bit this offseason. Has lost some weight, actually gotten faster this offseason. His name is Chris Rodriguez from the University of Kentucky. He looked pretty good this preseason as well. Yeah, like Jeremy McNichols, he actually, I mean, he played pretty well for us last year. Had 2 touchdowns against Arizona. I think he scored 4 on the year. So he was a solid guy who kind of mixed in once B-Rob kind of was banged up with his legs, and he came in and played well. So he's up there in the pecking order. But I think Chris Rodriguez, kind of his story this past year was, he was on the team, he was on the practice squad, then he was released for a couple of weeks, it was on the street, but he came back, continued to make his way on the team, did well, played well on special teams, and they gave him, hey, this is what we want to see this offseason. He's done everything, he's hit every stride. With the emergence of Bill as well, it just made sense for B-Rob to be on the way out. Obviously, another person that was a former regime, Ron Rivera pick. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see this running back room. It's going to be tough. I think Austin Eckler will still have a lot of fantasy value, especially the amount of touches he gets in the passing game. So he will be used on a lot of third down. So if you're looking for something like that, he will definitely get, I would say, anywhere from like 5 to 10 touches probably. I mean, obviously you have JD5 who will be running the ball, who'll probably have the ball, had the ball in his hands a lot as well as Debo, who probably maybe steal 5 touches in a running capacity that's outside of receiving as well. So it'll be an interesting mix to just see who will have the hot hand. It's kind of similar to the Green Bay Packers receiver room. You don't necessarily know who's going to be the person. And there's a lot of speculation that Romeo Dubes is, I guess, on the trading block, which I think he's their best receiver. So I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. And everything is TBD. And, we'll all be running to that waiver wire after week 1 once someone, goes crazy, a la James Robinson of the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then overreacts, and then dude stinks for the rest of the year. So we'll see.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
Ugh. He did it. I think it was like multiple. He did it twice. James Robinson did it twice, where it was like, oh, he's back week 1. He's so excited, 100-yard game. And then he's just garbage.
Exactly.
Let's talk about the Sanders brothers, shall we? They're the biggest news, as this title says. Shedeur Sanders, is he the Angel Reese of the NFL? Misunderstood or misguided? Question. Let's start with let's hold Shedeur for last. Let's talk about Shiloh, who obviously was definitely in the news the last couple of days for 2 reasons. One, throwing a punch in a preseason game and getting injected, and then this morning getting waived by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think I like Shiloh. I like him as a person. Like, his videos are cool. I think he's a really cool person. But I just never thought it was going to work out in the NFL. Will he get a chance to make the practice squad? I hope so, to keep his NFL careers going. But I think the writing on the wall, and it says Shiloh's 25. He's trying to play in the NFL. Late, he was in the college for a long time. Not the fastest DB, but I think, he has a likability. But I just don't think he had this immense talent. Obviously, he went undrafted, so he already had an uphill battle as it is. So I'll go to you, Jackson, as the resident Tampa Bay expert here. How do you feel about the Shiloh Sanders? Are you surprised that he got cut? Or are you surprised he got ejected yesterday?
There were only 2 players in this preseason who, gotten a ton of trouble for throwing punches, and they just happened to be Buccaneers and Panthers, right? Xavier Legette getting ejected for throwing some punches, and I liked how he's holding his own until he went for the legs. I really thought that he was putting up a good fight there. I thought he should have just stayed up. Very unlike Leggett, who's like a very likable, mild-mannered guy, to do that. So I kind of wonder what happened there. What was said.
First punch too, which is not the best look.
No, but hey, no harm, no foul. He's all safe with his position. Yeah, bad move on Shiloh's part, right? If you are not exactly safe on that roster anyway, obviously your brother and your dad have their own media narrative going on that you unfortunately just kind of by name get roped into. You almost have to play like as safe and likable as possible. So throwing a punch does not help at all. I don't think that he is anything related to what the media writes his family is like. So I don't think that's fair for him to have to fight against that, but that's just the situation he's in. I mean, it's a move that really doesn't affect the Bucs at all. He wasn't going to start for him. He probably wasn't going to be their second string. If he was going to make the 53-man roster, he was going to be like a special teams guy. So it's not a huge impact. It's just it's only in the news because it's a Sanders brother. I would say if not, well, and because he threw a punch that called attention to it. I'd say if this was like a normal cut at this point in the season, right after the preseason concludes, and it was someone who's not part of a well talked about family, we wouldn't even, he wouldn't be in discussions at all.
Josh, how do you feel about Shiloh?
Yeah, I mean, from everything I've seen video wise or whatever, he seems like a fun, chill, relaxing dude, high energy and whatnot, which can be infectious and whatnot, but that can only get you so far in the NFL. He definitely did not do yourself any favor by throwing that punch in a preseason game. Story might be a little bit different, tied to the Sanders name or not, if he was a higher draft pick, but he was an undrafted signing by the Bucs. So you have already a big hill to climb during with that rate, and you should be like pretty much a perfect little angel, coming in early, staying late at the practice, that whole spiel, whatnot. You can't afford to have any mistakes because if you're like fifth round and beyond, you're extended. Unfortunately, can get kicked for any reason, right? And this was the reason that the Bucs find good enough to have him hit the road, which is unfortunate. You gotta keep a cool head. Whatever happens in the game, I know it gets intense. Everyone's firing on all cylinders, and everyone's emotions are super high because they're all hyped during the game, and kind of will cloud your judgment for sure. That's when you kind of hone in and tap and lock up your mannerisms, because it can cost you a job, and that's what he's dealing with now. So wish him the best, and hopefully he can find another team and learn from his mistakes. He definitely deserves a second chance.
Cody, let me ask you this question.
Mm-hmm.
Is Coach Prime to blame for Shiloh going undrafted as he was his agent during the draft?
No, I don't think so. I think he was kind of a fringe NFL prospect to begin with. He wasn't great at Colorado. He started a lot of games, but he was kind of almost a liability out there sometimes.
Kind of?
Yeah, there was some games where it was like it wasn't great. So no, I wouldn't blame it on. You could blame the last name maybe of Sanders being a little bit playing into that, but not him being the agent. But I think he was I wasn't shocked when he went undrafted. I thought he was a big time cut candidate. And then, you throw a punch in a game that just makes the decision even easier for Tampa Bay. I think he'll get an opportunity to be on the practice squad and then maybe try to make a name for himself, get on the roster as a special teams guy. He probably, outside of the punch yesterday, because that was a lot of character for him, he's probably, he seems like the kind of the most even keel of the three, where the other two obviously are just much more star power and much more celebrity to the other two. But I think you'll get a chance to be on the practice squad and be in the NFL for a little bit. But I wouldn't blame Dion for being his agent, maybe being his coach and putting him out there. Maybe he played a little bit too much at Colorado. Some bad tape was out there for him, but he was a guy that was going to be most likely a cut candidate anyway. He's kind of, with his skill set and then his age being a 25-year-old rookie, it's kind of like you're kind of a fringe NFL player at that point.
You would think with his age should come wisdom. Same with Xavier Leggett. They're both older rookies that come into the year. into the league. Obviously, again, it was a first round pick, and versus Shiloh, who was a undrafted. So definitely on total ends of the spectrum. We got a super chat. Shout out to Mr. Two Locks. Trade Shedeur to Miami. Miami got weapons, and Tua won't last long. Josh, I'll let you start. What do you think about that? You think Shedeur should go to Miami?
I mean, for sure, I would for the weather. I would for the weather 100%.
More than the weather for me to go to Miami, that's for sure.
Shoot, it's beautiful out there. I mean, it depends what you would have to give up in return to do it. Yeah, God, poor Tua. Dude's noggin's been through a lot. God, who is the backup to Tua right now? Do we know?
Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson.
Quinn Ewers.
That's right.
Yeah. Not a great quarter and backups there.
You never know. I think this is the first. I think Zach Wilson said, what did he say? He said this is the first time someone's taught him how to do something. I cannot remember what he said, but it was like, oh, no one taught me this since I've been in the league. And it's like, oh, now he understands. Like, it could be similar to unlocking Patrick Mahomes, who said, I didn't know how to read coverages for the first couple years in the league. So now I think now that we taught Zach Wilson a new basic football skill, it could unlock Zach Wilson, and to have the Cougar power in Miami put together, you got a star in the making. Just imagine the Miami commercials with Zach Wilson and the Miami Vice look with two Miami bonitas. And it's like, it's the
just got married though, man.
Thing. It's the perfect thing. And then next, it's going to be likability. They're going to sell out. They're not going to care about Tyreek Hill. They're not going to care about all the other shenanigans because we got Zach Wilson and we have hope. I think I just sold myself that the Miami Dolphins are going to win 5 games this year.
I think you've been sampling some of the stuff they do in Miami too to kind of put that sell job there. But
I mean, that could be great too. I mean, we could just have a trade Jalen Coker to Miami. You got the Coke heads in Miami with Zach Wilson and the Milfs.
They've already got Darren Waller.
Like the greatest
so I think they're straight there.
That's true. Good point. That's a good point.
Jackson, what do you think?
That's crazy.
Shedeur to Miami?
I mean, I think Zach Wilson's actually a fine backup. He's not a starter, but he seems like he could probably hold his own. And then they just picked their rookie. They had a full draft, and it's not like Shedeur went in the first round. So they selected their rookie in Quinn Ewers. So I don't think that would make a lot of sense. I don't know if I would like for Shedeur to go somewhere where he not only won't start, but he will be behind someone who can mentor him well. I think Tua could be a good mentor. I think he's got ironic to say, a good head on his shoulders.
But he still has the same mentality of he didn't want to wear a guardian cap. So it's as someone who suffered traumatic brain injuries multiple times over the past 3 years. He
needs to go hang out with Chris Olave. Chris Olave looks like a bobblehead out there with how many layers he's got on his helmet. He needs to spend some time with him, talk some sense into him. With your history of concussions, if you have one concussion in your history, which every football player does, you just put it. Why would you not? There's no reason not to wear the extra protection there when it's not going to slow you down at all. It's not like we're adding extra knee pads or something.
And they've gotten better. The Guardian Cap 2s look even more molded to the helmet versus they're working on the technology. I don't know. He definitely has, he's headstrong, lack of better words about how he feels. But I mean, you just don't want to see someone die on their own sword, for lack of a better words, because of this is how you feel like you should play football.
Right.
Oh, for sure. You shouldn't have to worry about healthy or noggin for a fashion statement, right? I've also had suffered a few concussions and whatnot that they had a guardian cap. But back in the time, I'm rocking that. I'll duct tape up my own pillow to my head for sure 100%, because you only get one brain in order to turn to a vegetable, because you want to look cool in your helmet and whatnot. So you only get one brain, so gotta take care of that thing, man. That's crazy.
I think culturally it'll build, it'll grow, it'll get get steam. People eventually mostly be wearing them. You have a couple oddballs that don't, but eventually everyone's just going to. They're going to see the benefit and not really understand why. Like, why not? You know?
Yeah, I mean, they're wearing them more in college. So again, like as those players cycle in, I think it'll become natural. But I don't know whether or not it's like a fashion statement he has an issue with. I know he just said personal beliefs. So I don't know what the hell he believes in. But if you want to keep making another 200 million, if you want your contract to go past the year 2027, because that's when they have a out after next year, in this contract, I think you should invest in making sure. Because I think last year he learned how to fall doing so it's like, okay.
I'm liking the talk that we have in the comments about the Rams. There was a lot of talk in our podcast about the Rams being a good option for him before the draft happened, with it looking like he might fall, saying I don't remember where the Rams drafted, if it was like the late teens or the 20s or something like that. But
20s, yeah.
Yeah, there were some folks that were like, oh, if he falls to the Rams, I didn't disagree, and now that Stafford's hurt, that there's some weight to it.
Yeah, I think it's a better fit with the Rams. You got McVay, who's going to be there for a while, where McDaniels, this could be his last year in Miami. So you could go down there and then boom, you're getting a new coach next year that may not even want you. So yeah, I think it's a much better fit. Sit behind Stafford for a year. I'd rather learn behind Stafford than Tua, to be honest, as well. So I think that would be a better fit for Shedeur. I don't know if either one of them are interested. I don't know if the Rams are interested, but yeah, no, I like that fit better than Miami. I know both LA and Miami be tough towns for that kind of like star, but I just think that the fits and just the whole program there for the Rams is just much better for a guy like that who could use some stability.
So let's answer this question. This is up for everybody. Let us know in the comment section as well. Will Shedeur be cut on Tuesday?
I don't think so. A lot of reports are saying that they're going to carry 4 quarterbacks. I don't know why they're not cutting Kenny Pickett. He's been injured. He's not very good. I think that'd be an easy cut, and you just go with Gabriel, Flacco, and Shedeur as your quarterbacks. But yeah, I keep seeing reports are going to keep 4 quarterbacks, whether that's, you're not going to put 4 quarterbacks in your 53-man roster. That'd be stupid, but it is the Browns. They could do that. So,
yes,
but I think he stays on the team. And but I don't know if he's really going to get on the field. Yesterday did not help at all. He was the third quarterback in. He struggled big time, and it seems like they prefer Gabriel big time over him. I mean, they drafted Gabriel 2 rounds above him, so they do prefer Gabriel behind Flacco. So it could be a long uphill battle for Shedeur to get on the field. So yeah, maybe he ends up being a trade candidate, but I don't think he ends up getting cut.
I enjoyed Jeff Schwartz's commentary on Twitter about the situation, because there were a couple of fans that were saying that, like, if you don't see the blocking discrepancy, you're blind, saying that they weren't blocking for Shedeur, but they were blocking for Gabriel. And Schwartz was like, I remember being a rookie, lineman just trying to make it in the NFL, and my coach turning to me and saying, "Hey, don't block for that guy. We don't like him." It's like, it happens all the time.
Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely obviously it's like, lack of talent. Obviously, to be honest with you, a lot of the guys who are playing at that time in the last preseason game in the third, fourth quarter are probably going to be working at Lowe's on Monday. Like, to be honest with you, so it's like, it's unfortunate, right? But to keep 4 quarterbacks, I don't think it makes sense, and especially if they keep Kenny Pickett, who hasn't played a lick of preseason, and I heard he has been being shopped. I don't know what kind of market Kenny Pickett will have, if any type of market. Maybe they trade Kenny Pickett back to the Steelers. I know this is for Shedeur. The comments were for Shedeur, but maybe they trade Kenny Pickett back to the Steelers just for shits and giggles. I'm here for that. Josh, what do you think?
Shoot, quoted me from like a few months ago, loving it. Where he should have went, but with well, I was just thinking about, can you imagine, y'all remember how crazy the headlines were, right? They kept falling round after round after round, just blowing up everything, right? Can you imagine if you were to be cut? All the headlines all crazy, and that would absolutely go on, and what everyone would say to them headlines, whether verbiage on its own or people's conversations in general on how that would be, it would absolutely just take the internet by storm 2.0. I don't think that'll happen. I do think they should part ways with Kenny. Not doing the enemy favors. And you got Flacco, Gabriel, and Shedeur. I say just get them rolling and just roll with those. You know what you have with all of them. Kenny's not really been helping you guys much at all. So I say just roll the dice and get rolling with the game plan for the rest of the season, because time is precious in the NFL, and get rolling. Can't be sitting indecisive. You wasting a whole roster spot trying to keep 4 guys. So that's my spiel.
Here's another question for the room. If you're Shedeur, would you just want to be released? Like, would you want to just be like, let me just get out of Cleveland, right? I'm misunderstood here. Maybe I've been misled here. And maybe I just want to be able to pick where I want to go next, when possibly he could wind up going to the Steelers, which, I mean, that was one of the highly rumored, places before the draft he was going to go. Obviously, they drafted Will Howard, national champion Will Howard. Or, maybe he goes to L.A., right, where maybe his star can shine as bright as the Hollywood actors. Next behind, Stafford, Garoppolo, and Staquavius Bennett. Maybe he goes to Miami, and maybe he's, might be a perfect fit in the, McDaniel's scheme, and maybe saves his job. Maybe he goes to New Orleans, where maybe they should have drafted him over Tyler Shook. Well, I don't know. If you're Shedeur, would you rather be cut to choose your next opportunity, or would you just want to stay with the Cleveland Browns?
I think if you asked him off the record, he probably would say yes. Like, if you asked him behind closed doors or whatever, he'd probably say yes. The only reason why I would give a little bit of caution for that is, like, you just saw in the draft teams pass up on you 4, 5, 6 times. So the league's not very high on you. Do you want to take a chance and go out there again for the whole league to kind of look at you after they've seen you in preseasons? You had a good game and a bad game. So I think he would like to be released, but I don't know if the grass is greener is the problem, because he kind of got told that on draft day that, like, yeah, we're not really high on you as a league from basically all the different owners. So I think it would be interesting to see what kind of market he would actually have when he's on the market by himself.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I would be scared if I were him of going out into the free market and having these teams that could, they had multiple chances on you, and they were taking, names that we're not hearing, probably names that have since been waived, some of them, instead of him. It says a lot. So if I were him, with the general message that the league sent to him on draft night, I would be scared to go out on my own and try to, bet on myself, go like display. He's also got to go interview with all those teams. They don't just sign you, man. They want to meet you. So he's got to do that whole process over again. And that was kind of the thing that everyone said hurt his stock, was whatever happened in these meetings with like the Giants and whoever. So if I were him, I'd be a little bit worried about what he could possibly get. I think he would be in trouble.
Well, before Josh, you go, I just want to say, look, a lot has changed since then, right? A lot is, like, you've seen tape, you've seen that, okay, there's something there, right? And then also, like, to your point as well, it's like, yeah, well, we drafted this guy. This guy this brother can't read cover 2. And then we could see something capable of him. So, like, you don't see that as like, okay, you know what, maybe let's actually give him a shot, let him sit on our practice squad, let's get him in our building and then see what they got. Because it's nothing. If it's difference between a draft capital given up for him versus just, hey, vet minimum, whatever, it's like $400,000. I think that risk, whatever, I don't think it's that high now if he were to be cut or claimed, off of waivers. But Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, so with that, work our way backwards. So I believe all the quarterbacks coming in can read coverages, right? They're not always super base. They're not always super base. Like, everyone thinks class cover 2 is only just 2 safeties just shooting straight back, right?
You would think, but
yeah, so it's not always that. So it's all, they can be invert, right? So the safeties come down towards the flats, and the corners can all of a sudden shoot up last second to the middle of your cadence, and now they're the safeties and whatnot. So much intricacy that can happen with that kind of stuff. So I believe they might be confused with how to read the disguises of the coverages, and they can flip from cover 2 to cover 3 within 3 words of your cadence and whatnot. So by the time you go to register, try to realize where all your keys are, where your weapons are going, receivers are going. Oh shoot, it was a cover 2, but now the kind of function is it still a cover 2? Is it a cover 3? Is it cover 1 now? So that's probably what they're having a problem with regarding that. And I think Cody brought up the whole grass green on the other side of the thing. I'm definitely a big believer on the grass is green where you water it, right? So it's where the effort you put into is where the grass is going to be green. So if you don't water it, aka don't put that effort in Cleveland, right? Cleveland's been waiting for a quarterback to be the savior, right? The hero they've been longing for years and years and years, right? So y'all got a big name, okay. Let's see how big of a name you can do by trying to save Cleveland, put it on your back at some point by you watering that grass and make that grass green for Cleveland. And then you could really be that hero that they've been waiting for. And then you have a statue up real quick if y'all can get them Super Bowl somehow.
Yeah.
Here one. That would be just nice.
That would be crazy.
As a former quarterback, I have to say that reading coverages is the hardest part of the job. Making accurate throws, you either have the talent or you don't, right? Being able to feel the pocket is an innate talent. Some people either have feel, they don't. Your rushing ability is completely separate, right? Some guys are rushing quarterbacks, some guys aren't. But reading a coverage is the most difficult thing you can do as a quarterback because the league has developed more and more to trick you at the line. Not only are we playing in a generation where it's way more safety help, a lot more of that drop 2, drop 3, play deep coverage to prevent the big shots. We're also having this like insane development of pass rushers where the most freak human beings are these elite pass rushers, and they just weren't the same back then. Like we had our Lawrence Taylors and guys like that, but now, the Myles Garretts and the Micah Parsons and all those guys, like as a quarterback, like you have to make that read quickly because you have less time in the pocket than you used to have. Plus they're doing all these crazy stunts. They're showing cover 1 and then they drop into some freakish, deep coverage with 3 deep. It's impossible to read. You can really take a look at, a defense before yourself or any fan that wants to comment on your ability to read a defense. Look at a defense before they run the play and say what coverage they're going to run. I would say if you're good at reading defenses, you're going to be right 35% of the time. They are extremely deceiving these days. So it was something I definitely struggled with as a quarterback through my fair share of picks.
Yeah.
And then
I was about to say that too with Jackson. Like I challenge y'all, like when you watch an NFL game, I'm going to specifically highlight the Vikings in general because they'll have people moving constantly. They'll have a bunch of people up in the box, right? You pause, watch, like, all right, what is the coverage? Then hit play or resume watching. And then just find out if you're right at the end of that. Because, they might all drop back. They all might fall on full blitz. It's the A gap and all. One side might be a cover 2, right? But the other side might be a cloud coverage, like cover 3 on one side, right? So it all is all the variable for sure.
And also another thing to add to the skies of coverages is the player the types of players that are playing these positions. The defensive end edge rusher used to be a 260, 270 coming off the end. Now we got guys who are 230, 6'5", lean, and just pure speed. Now we're having safeties play middle linebacker and linebackers to have more speed closer to the line of scrimmage. So now that you are having decisions have to be made even faster because everyone is faster. So it is tough. I don't know how we got on this tangent, but I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
And maybe possibly Shedeur has lost his spot in the Cleveland, roster. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Like, I just think he will at least have one more opportunity, right? I don't think, but I could be wrong, obviously. That, I think Shedeur will be fine. I think if he does get another opportunity to play somewhere and maybe choose that spot, because the NFL, they're wrong a good bit of the times. Like,
yeah, they're not willing to admit it though.
They're not. Oh, for sure.
The
They're
issue.
very. They're very like, let's talk about Jerry Jones. He's wrong a lot, right? He thought that Jonathan Mingo was going to be good, so he traded a third-round pick. That's not working out great. He still thinks that Joe Milton might be a decent quarterback, maybe backup quarterback. Obviously, if you will look at the live stream that Dallas Cowboys make, these immaculate throws he's having. Obviously, the arm talent's spectacular. But listen, if you watch any of Tennessee football ever in your life when he was playing, it's fool's gold.
Or
but
Michigan too, yeah.
It is what it is. Let's see. King Whopper says that we're lame.
We didn't make that title. It wasn't our call.
Let's see. Let him play with the ones until he gets. I see again, like when Shedeur played the whole game, like you saw him with. I mean, it wasn't the ones. It still wasn't the ones.
It wasn't the ones. Yeah.
But obviously with the twos, the mixture of twos, and I mean, I think he had Jabari Thrash there, so and he had Fannin too, so he had like a decent mix of some people who are like twos to play, and he played well.
Right.
Yeah, when you're playing with a bunch of people who are going to work at Lowe's, it wasn't going to look good. It's gonna look
You're also playing against a bunch of threes and fours
Right.
too, so it's pretty level playing field at that point when you get into the game. It's not like you're playing their ones on defense with your fours on offense. So, I think it's still
Especially not in the
pretty
third
level
quarter.
play. Yeah, exactly. I think at the end of the day, he's got to earn playing with the ones, and from everything we've heard in camp and in practice, he hasn't earned playing with the ones. And yeah, maybe he started further back.
Earned mean?
And
That's a good question to ask. Because earned is like, okay, we drafted him, so he earned these more reps. We drafted him in the top 3 rounds. He earned, quote unquote, right? Like, obviously, the last week of having the oblique injury and not playing last week, and just coming back this past week and playing the preseason game, probably not the ideal. Maybe didn't get to practice a lot. That could be factor into it as well. But again, it's like if everything was like straight for what it is, like man for man, what would that look like? Because obviously there is politics in the game of football, and not talking about political politics, but just politics in terms of like, hey, we drafted this person in the 3rd round. We will give this person out of 10, 6 reps out of 10, and you'll get the 2 because we need to see that because we're paying him 2 times your salary, so we got to make sure that this hits more likely than the 5th round or the 6th round or the undrafted person.
I think if he nursed that injury, it would have been a blessing for him. I think that any strategist would have said, dude, you just balled out week 1 in the preseason. You got a little injury, a real one. Sit out the next 2. Do not play in the preseason. Obviously, if that became an issue with his team, that would be a whole other thing. But some of the best strategists use those kind of things to their own power. I did it myself. I had a 2-day recruiting camp one time and balled out day 1, pulled my hamstring at the end of the day, and coach came over and told me to sit out the 2nd day. He was like, absolutely do not show up tomorrow. You played well. You're going to get attention. If you play tomorrow and you're slowed down by a hamstring, it's just going to wash any progress you made with the coaches on day 1.
Do you think that could also be the same for – I mean, it's kind of a little different with Kenny Pickett. Like, obviously he kind of was getting a lot of reps with the ones in practice, but then that early hamstring tweak. Obviously with Dylan Gabriel, he tweaked his hamstring early. He has played well the last 2 games as well. So, like, do you think that's the same for Kenny Pickett, that he's hurt his hamstring and hasn't really played any live reps?
You run the risk of, it working out how it has for Kenny, right? He didn't play at all, and going into camp, he had a pretty good shot at QB1, and coming out of camp, we're talking about them probably cutting him, So you definitely run that risk, but I would assume that if that were the case, if he was kind of just sitting there not wanting to put bad film out there, I kind of have the feeling after Shedeur's good game 1, he would have had some medical miracle and, been ready to play week 2 or 3, just to show that he's also capable, just because, you see Shedeur ball out and you're probably worried that if the supporting cast can create that success for Gabriel or for Flacco or whoever's on the roster at that point, then they start having those conversations about letting you go. So I think if it was a milked injury, he would have come back week 2.
Okay. All right. Final stamp before we get out of here, and we'll be back next Sunday at 8:00 as next week, and we'll probably get into some previews for week 1. Shedeur Sanders, will he be a Cleveland Brown by the end of this year. Cody, yes or no?
Ooh, I thought you were just going to say by week 1. End
I
of
was
this
thinking too.
year. I'm going to go no. I think maybe trade deadline talk comes around. Maybe he does end up somewhere else. So I'll go no.
Josh?
I think he'll stick around for sure.
Okay. Will Sam Howell be a Cleveland Brown, Josh?
Yo, it's
Right.
bro. That's right, bro. Probably. That is wild.
Jackson.
He's gonna have as many jerseys as like Josh Johnson,
Ooh, Sam Howell,
Howell.
the new Josh Johnson. That's kind of fire.
No, but yeah, I think Shedeur sticks around. I think that it's not a good move by the Browns to let go of someone that you drafted, especially with the draft hype that he had. Take a chance on him, use a roster spot. Just don't use 4 on a quarterback. Get rid of Kenny. Sorry, and then move forward. Even if he's your QB3 and he's not getting reps, as long as he's not a problem off the field, which I think he's learning to just wise up and not be, I really don't see why you would let him go now. There's too much upside for you to let that guy go. It would be very Cleveland Browns for him to have a pretty good NFL career somewhere else.
Hey, they wanted a savior. They tried a baker. And now they don't want a chef or a watch. I don't know what you call Shedeur. But my bold prediction as we wrap this up from the sidelines is that Shedeur Sanders will be a New York Jet sometime this year. That is my bold prediction. Him backing up Justin Fields and possibly starting.
Is that an upgrade? But yeah, that's a conversation for another day.
But thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week, every Sunday at 8 p.m. as the NFL season looms. Week 1 of college football is next week. A lot is happening, but have a great night, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.